Let's talk about setting up ShipCompliant with your Commerce7 account. So there's a few things here that we need to do in preparation so that they're ready to roll when you turn on the extension in Commerce7. So there are four things here. One is you want to make sure that your licenses are all set up and activated within your ShipCompliant portal. Number two, you want to make sure that your product SKUs are set up in ShipCompliant as product keys. Thirdly, you want to make sure that your shipping codes are defined in Commerce7. And finally, you want to make sure that there is a web service user set up in ShipCompliant for Commerce7. So let's look at how to do each of these things so that we're ready to enable the extension. Okay, here we are in ShipCompliant, and just quickly going to show you where to find these things that we just talked about. So for our licenses, you want to go to Setup and Licenses. And then when you go there, you'll be able to see which licenses have been created, enabled, and activated. Next, let's talk about SKUs. And again, we go to Setup and we go to Products. And I'm actually going to go down here to the 19 cab, and I'm going to click Edit. And you'll see here, key/SKU. It's called a product key in ShipCompliant. You want to make sure that your product key and SKU are exactly the same in both systems. Here we see 19 cab with a capital C. These are case sensitive, so you want to make sure that you pay attention to that, and no leading or trailing spaces. And let's see where that lives within Commerce7. On the products page, here is my 19 cab. Clicking into it, scrolling down, and here we see that SKU, 19 cab. So that is very important. You want to make sure that the SKU matches exactly that key within ShipCompliant. Thirdly, you want to make sure that your shipping codes match both in Commerce7 and in ShipCompliant. And the way we do that is, let's go back to the dashboard, let's head over to settings, and let's go into shipping. Let's click into one of these guys. Let's look at our shipping services. That's where this will live. So here's UPS Ground, which is my first service here. I click edit, and you'll see here code. So this code is used for ShipCompliant. You want to make sure that it matches exactly the code within ShipCompliant. You can find a list of those in our documentation. So let me show you where that is. We're going to head over into Support, Documentation, ShipCompliant. And it's right here. And here you'll see adding shipping codes. So this shows you all of the codes that are within ShipCompliant, so you can find your shipping service here and then the corresponding codes. So you want to make sure that you use one of these codes within Commerce7. All right, heading back over into Commerce7, the final thing that you want to do before you hook this up is make sure that you have a web service account set up within ShipCompliant. So let's go over into ShipCompliant and show you how to do that. Let's get rid of that message. Let's go over here under the gear. You will choose users. All right, here we are on the user page. We're going to add a user. First name, I'm going to go ahead and use mine. And we'll make this Brittany at. Password, let's make a nice strong one. And a word about the password. You want to make sure that it's between 6 and 12 characters, a combination of numbers, letters, and symbols. If you take a look down here, it'll tell you whether your password is strong enough. If you have a red message down here and it says it's not strong enough, make sure you make it strong before saving, because it will not let you save it if it's not in this green strong messaging. Role type, web service user, associated partner is going to be Commerce7. Before I save it, a word about the email address and first name and last name. It could be your first name and last name. A lot of times I will make it just more generic than that, maybe even first name web, last name services. Email address does not have to be valid. These are just things that you're going to be entering into Commerce7's settings for ShipCompliant. That's the only place that it'll ever be needed. So it doesn't need to be valid, but in this case, I'm just using my own. Saving. Okay, perfect. We now have a web service user for Commerce7. So you might be wondering, what are we going to do with that? Well, let's go back into Commerce7. Let's go to the dashboard. Let's go to apps and extensions. Head into extensions, and here we see the ShipCompliant extension. I'm going to click on that. We're going to add the extension, and here we have some setup fields. So mode, you want to choose production. Username, it pre-filled for me here. All right, password, we're going to enter what I just created over in ShipCompliant. Shipment status, you have some choices here. So you need to define which of these statuses that you want orders to be in when they get sent over to ShipCompliant. If you want the orders to flow automatically to fulfillment, then you can choose Sent to Fulfillment from this list. Now, depending on your ShipCompliant account, you may or may not have that option to just automatically have them sent, but if you do, yeah, you can set that up here. I'm going to go ahead and choose Payment Accepted, which basically means that when I send my orders over into ShipCompliant, I will need to manually send to fulfillment. They won't automatically go to my fulfillment house. So know that that is an option as well. This is an optional field, and it's usually used if you have more than one brand that are using one ShipCompliant account. So if you do, then you likely have a prefix that would denote one brand or the other, and that's what you would enter here. Okay, this drop-down is where you define your fulfillment house, and this is for shipped orders. Where do your shipped orders get sent? So you have a list here, and these are all fulfillment houses that are partners already with ShipCompliant. So if you see your fulfillment partner here, then go ahead and choose it. If you don't, then it probably means that they're not hooked up to ShipCompliant, but definitely check with ShipCompliant to confirm. Fulfillment account is optional, and again, that is if you have identifying information that has to do with a particular fulfillment account, you'll want to add it there. The uses carrier pickup locations and carrier pickup location type. These are only used if you are using the hold at location functionality. If you are not using that functionality, you can just leave these defaulted. And then here we have compliance type. If you have a full ShipCompliant account, then you will choose full compliance check. If you just have a pass-through account, a level 1 pass-through account that is just hooked up to your fulfillment house and you don't do full compliance, then you will choose level 1 pass-through. Okay, then we have the scheduled task to check ShipCompliant to see if orders fulfilled. If you check this box, then that means that tracking information will automatically come back into Commerce7 into the orders. If you leave it unchecked, that will not happen. Also, once you check this, upon the setup completion here, Commerce7 will reach out to ShipCompliant to get updated shipping, delivery information, tracking information from ShipCompliant for the last 90 days. And then you can decide to push your carryout orders to ShipCompliant. Some wineries do and some wineries do not. So depending on what your compliance process is, you will either want to check this or not. Okay, and then finally down here we have the USA taxes from drop down to define. We have ShipCompliant and we have ShipCompliant free courtesy Commerce7. So if you are doing the full compliance check here, if you have a full compliance check ShipCompliant account, you will want to choose ShipCompliant here. If instead you have the level 1 pass-through account, which is just the one that passes through to your fulfillment house, you have the option here to choose ShipCompliant, the free courtesy from Commerce7, and that means that we would be pulling taxes from ShipCompliant into your Commerce7 orders free of charge. So depending on your ShipCompliant account type, that will define what you're going to put down here. I'm going to go ahead and put it back to full compliance check and back to ShipCompliant for this exercise. Okay, set up ShipCompliant. Awesome, we're set up. And now we see that the extension is enabled, and now the setup steps are complete. If you need to change your settings at any point, go into the Settings tab, and you'll be able to change those. Okay, and we can test the setup by going over to Store and Carts, choose a cart, scroll to the bottom of any cart, and you'll see a pre-check compliance button now. When you click on that, it will tell you whether the order is compliant, or if it's not compliant, it'll tell you why it's not compliant. So if you see those messages coming in, you know that you are connected. So that is about it for the setup. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to us in support.